Ms. Chen Liu-Hui. Wrong. Mr. Dennis Tan.
Question 6, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, to address the unsafe and inconsiderate usage of PMDs, we are strengthening public education and enforcement, including the registration of e-scooters. When implemented in the second half of 2018, all e-scooters, regardless of whether they are privately owned or shared, must be registered and have identification stickers prominently pasted on them. This will facilitate enforcement and deter reckless riding. Under the Active Mobility Act, which commenced on 1st May 2018, errant users of e-scooters are also subject to strict penalties. We do not rule out starting a licensing regime for PMD sharing services at a later phase. However, more time is required to understand their operational and safety processes, as these services are relatively new and rather limited in Singapore.
Mr. Dennis Tan.
His answers. The SMS mentioned about the new regulations, the registration requirement, and I agree that that may deter reckless riding and illegal riding to some extent. Can I ask the SMS, what are the current plans to improve better riding etiquette, inconsiderate use of PMD? Because this may not be, inconsiderate uses may not amount to an offense. So a lot of such inconsiderate uses on an everyday basis are not really captured as such. But I think that there is a public relations aspects on this, and I think a lot of, especially pedestrians on the ground, are concerned about this. So moving forward, what are the government's plans to improve this aspect? Thank you.
I'd like to thank the member, Mr. Dennis Tan, for the supplementary questions, and allow me to indulge in answering the very pertinent question, which I think many Singaporeans as well as users of PMDs are concerned about. We adopt a multi-pronged approach to deter reckless riding. One of the measures that we have adopted is that through education initiatives. We have embarked on public education campaign, and in order to promote gracious sharing of public paths, LTA actually launched a wave of communication since early 2017 to raise awareness of the active mobility rules and code of conduct, as well as safe riding habits. And these safety messages have been translated into various languages, including Mandarin, Malay, Tamil, Hindi, and Bengali. And LTA will continue to raise public awareness of these new active mobility rules, as well as the penalties involved if such rules are violated. At the same time, LTA has also started a safety riding program since February this year to educate the participants on safe riding practices, as well as the rules and conduct under the Active Mobility Act. And this safe riding program actually has two components. There is a practical component whereby the program teaches participants how to maneuver the bicycles and PMDs safely, as well as to react to certain unforeseen circumstances. And of course, there's another component of a didactic lecture, which I've already mentioned before. In addition to all these educational initiatives, I think the member is also aware that we have enacted legislative changes, such as the Active Mobility Act, as well as stepping up enforcement actions. I think LTA has their active mobility enforcement officers, which are stepping up the enforcement action as well as to patrol all these hotspots where there is a high volume of pedestrians and cyclists. We have also engaged volunteers on the ground, to also look into educating users on safe riding habits as well. And thirdly, LTA is also adopting innovative solutions to manage this situation. We have embarked on a trial to study the effectiveness of mobile CCTVs in identifying and reducing errant riding behaviors along public paths. And if this proves to be effective, I think we'll extend it to more places. Right now, we just piloted a few areas like in Ang Mo Kio, Yishun, and Ubi.
Mr. Patrick Tay.
Just a follow-up supplementary question to Senior Minister of State. Regarding usage of PMDs, increasingly we are seeing them being used in private premises such as shopping malls, and also because some of these malls and private places are quite porous, so actually it allows PMDs to move from public to private spaces. And many of these mall owners are at a loss. In fact, we have seen situations where there's confrontation when some of these PMD users say, this is a private premise, it's my freedom to use that PMD, why are you telling me not to? So are there measures taken to work with mall owners and also maybe perhaps even give more powers to them to help them in that journey to enforce and minimize or eradicate some of these very dangerous, negligent and careless PMD users?
I'd like to thank the member for the supplementary questions. The Active Mobility Act as well as the Parking Places Amendment Act actually deals with situations within public places. With regards to your query on private places, I think this is really up to the owner of the public places to come up with measures to prevent illegal use of such mobility devices. Of course, if let's say this private entity needs assistance, I think they can also approach us to step up public education, to educate PMB users the right habits as well as riding safely. But I think at the end of the day, because these are private places, it is up to the private landowners to exercise the due diligence in preventing such illegal use of PMDs in those areas.
Mr. Zaino Sapari.
I have one supplementary question for SMS. I think despite all the measures that we have taken to encourage safe riding behavior, accidents do happen, and some of these accidents involve my resident. What would the SMS suggest the recourse that accident victim could take? Let's say if the rider has no insurance coverage, neither do the accident victim have any insurance coverage, because some of the medical costs incurred can be quite high and can be very difficult for the accident victim to claim a compensation. Thank you.
I think in situations where there are accidents, I think the first thing that the victim has to do is actually to report it to the police so that the necessary investigations can be done. And I agree with the member that indeed there has been a rise in the number of accidents involving active mobility devices on public paths. Just to give you some statistics, in 2015 we have about 19 cases of reported accidents, and that has increased to 42 in 2016 and 128 in 2017. So this is quite a significant increase, and we are quite concerned about it as well. And in light of the increased active mobility-related accidents, we have also engaged the Active Mobility Advisory Panel to review some of the measures that need to be taken, such as the speed limits on footpaths, whether there's a need for the usage of helmets, and there are also suggestions to dismount and push at traffic crossings, bus stop, as well as crowded areas, and suggestions on insurance and compensation framework as well. So I'll leave it to the Active Mobility Advisory Panel to advise us. They'll be meeting, and we take reference from them.
Mr. Azmun Ahmad.
Thank you for the elaboration, SMS. I have one question. I noticed that upon approaching the zebra crossing at every crossroads, it's quite common that at least for me, common to see that the PMD riders, they do not stop, they just rush through, Is there a way we can do something at the cross where they will be slowed down, not to rush through the zebra crossing? Because their speed is much faster than the normal pedestrians. I guess you know what I mean, right?
I'd like to thank the member for the supplementary question. As what Minister has said, indeed, PMD usages as well as reckless riding has become one of the hotter topics rather than trains and buses. Yes, indeed, I think not only at zebra crossings, I think even when the PMD users are actually riding on normal pathways or shared pathway, they have to exercise due diligence and considerations as well as to obey traffic rules, you know. So I think public education is important in educating some of these PMD users on how to use the PMDs in a more responsible way. I think if we are able to achieve that, I think it will be much safer for all users, and we will also be able to achieve our vision of a car-like society.
Ms. Fumiha.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a supplementary question. I think Minister SMS has alluded a lot about this encouraging people to use active mobility devices on the back of assumed success of your education programs, because we didn't have a law, now we're just having a law in place. I want to ask, how effective have these education programs have been? First, how many have taken your safe riding program? How many has turned up? How many people actually read those pamphlets? So that we know the education efforts are making an impact, and that we can count on them to make sure that the use of active mobility devices are safe. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Member Fumiha for the supplementary question. I think these are very pertinent questions. Besides public education, I think there are also other measures that LTA and MOT are implementing to make sure that the use of PMD is safe on our roads. With regards to public education, the Safe Riding program has only started in February this year. So I think I urge members as well as all Singaporeans to be a little bit more patient. We will definitely want to step up the public education effort. And at the same time, you know, with the Active Mobility Act being enforced since May, I think that will actually serve as a strong deterrent factor for users to ride irresponsibly.